Thousands of years ago, before any of us existed, there lived the people known as Egyptians. But unlike the Egyptians of today, these people worshipped a pantheon of people known as gods, who if treated properly could bring prosperity or destruction.
But who were these gods, and what is their story? I'm here today at the Swans University Egypt Centre to see if I can answer that question.
The gods were worshipped in strange and mysterious ways. Some people used statues, and others prayed, but the basis for this worship was stories, and it's these stories I plan to tell you today.
So before I tell you the gods' stories, I should probably tell you who they are. The gods this film will be focusing on are Ra, the first king of the gods and the creator of the earth, who rides his sunboat across the sky every morning and then back across the sky every evening. The god Osiris, the second king of the gods. He later became the god of the dead after a foul play by his brother Set, another god I will be talking about, the god of chaos. Originally Ra's general, when his brother took over, Set wasn't really happy with the change in rank. I will talk about Isis, Osiris' wife and goddess of motherhood. She was also the mother of Horus, the third king of the gods and the avenger. And finally, I will be talking about Anubis, god of embalming. In the case behind me you can see statues of various gods such as Osiris, Amun-Ra and Anubis. They were used by Egyptians to worship these gods as they did not have corporeal form on the earth. Some believed that if these gods weren't worshipped properly then they could bring about great destruction. Some believed that that was the flooding of the Nile.
Isis, queen of the gods, wife of Osiris and mother of Horus. She was usually worshipped by mothers and her own private priestesses. She and Ra have a history. Before Isis was queen of the gods, she was just the goddess of motherhood, until Ra was poisoned. Ra then called for Isis, and she promised to heal him on the condition that Ra give up his secret name. He did so, and Isis healed him, but with Ra's secret name, a god's true name, the name that holds all of his power. She could control him, and told him she would relinquish his name if he gave up his throne and title and passed them down to her husband Osiris. Ra did so and left to continue his journeys across the sky. Osiris was then named king of the gods and made Isis his queen.
The Egyptians took their worship very seriously, as when a god wasn't worshipped they thought it would bring much pain and sorrow. Some even believed that because Tutankhamun's father, Akhenaten, decided to completely remove the gods from the religions of ancient Egypt that his son was killed. And others believed that if you worship the gods in certain special ways, then great joy would be brought to you, such as good harvest before the flooding of the Nile. The flooding of the Nile itself was celebrated, with the myth of creation echoing what had been seen every year. The myth of creation goes like this. Before everything, there was darkness and water. And then, much like the annual flooding of the Nile, the Mound of Creation, a giant block of land, breached the water and now stands where the city of Thebes still stands today. And as the mound rose, so did the sun, and the sun god Ra was born. He set foot onto the Mound of Creation and he created the earth and the sky and separated them so that the rest of creation could occur. Now, ancient Egyptians believed that creation wasn't a one-time event. It was ongoing, and if they didn't celebrate this, then destruction would be brought, and the sun god's enemy, Apep, would eat the world and the sun, and darkness and water would reign over once again.
But Isis wasn't always all-powerful. During the time when Osiris' body parts were scattered across Egypt, she hid in the papyrus swamps near Buta, raising her son Horus. Some nights she left Horus there and wandered around Egypt. This ties into a story called Isis and the Seven Scorpions. During her walks around Egypt, Isis had to be accompanied by 7 scorpions, 3 of them in the front, Petet, Tijet and Matet, at her side, Mesetet and Mesetetef, and behind her were Tefan and Befan. One night Isis was travelling to the town of 2 sisters in the Nile Delta. A wealthy noblewoman saw the strange party arrive and quickly shut the door to her house. This angered the scorpions and they decided to teach the woman a lesson. In preparation, 6 of the 7 scorpions gave their poisons to Tefn, who loaded it in his stinger. Meanwhile, a humble peasant girl made her home a refuge to Isis, but this did nothing to quell the scorpion's anger, who crept into the noblewoman's home and poisoned her son. Isis heard the woman screaming and rushed to help. She then healed her son by naming the scorpions, making their venom inert to the sun. The woman then rewarded Isis and the peasant girl with all the riches she had.
Many believe that after death there was yet another life, and this afterlife was ruled by the god Osiris. Now, Osiris had many forms, like that of Ptah Sakhar Osiris, and his own form. Osiris wasn't originally the god of the underworld. Originally, he was the second king of the gods, but sometime during his reign, his brother Set had a contest to see who could fit in this large metal sarcophagus. Unfortunately, Osiris won, and Set threw him in the Nile River. After years, his wife Isis found him. Knowing that he would soon be defeated, Set instead decided to chop Osiris into bits and scatter him throughout Egypt. It then took another, some say 100, some say 1,000 years, to find all the pieces of Osiris and put him back together. During this time, Osiris' son Horus had grown up and become the Avenger. He fought Set for the throne, and became king of the gods. Osiris was then mummified, and the god Anubis turned him into a mummy. He then became the god of the underworld. And if you are judged on the scales of Ma'at, and your heart lines up with the feather, you will meet Osiris and be allowed into the underworld. However, if your heart is heavier than the feather, it will be eaten by a monster only known as Amit the Devourer.